Hello people, today I'm going to be doing a review of Spider-Man 3. This was released in 2007, once again, directed by Sam Raimi. This is a very interesting movie just because of how it all just kind of worked out. And, let's get right into this movie, review, I should say. I don't hate this movie. I don't like it, per se, but, it's Spider-Man 3, you know. It's a movie that hits a lot of really good notes. Like, the way that this movie wraps up overall is so well done. The first hour of this movie is really entertaining, but this movie has that middle chunk, like that middle 50 minutes that just had a headache in my head, where we've all seen the meme content. We all know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's all connected to the symbiote of what is bad in this movie. Literally, the only thing that holds this movie back is the symbiote. And sadly, it takes up a good portion of the movie. But the only good thing I could say about the symbiote is that we have some fantastic memed material. In the last movies, I talked about that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies hit that level of meme material, but it holds back, it rides that fine line between cringe and campy. This movie crossed that line, and it crossed it a lot to the cringe category. It is kind of that middle, I don't know, like 30 to 45 minutes of this movie. It's almost an abomination of how I've never seen a movie dive so deep, so fast to a level of trash that this movie did. But the thing is that it's only that 30-minute segment, because everything else in there on that, that's like right here is really good. The first hour of this movie was good enough. The last 30 minutes of this movie was just almost, it was almost perfect, minus like the inclusion of Venom. But like what they did with James Franco's character was all so well done. Minus there's this one scene that really bothers me. The first hour, it has some really entertaining action. This is probably the only one where I could kind of tell the CG more than the first two. Particularly some nighttime sequence, but this movie has the most visual and stuff going on out of the three, so I think that's almost a given. That's going to be the weakest when it comes to like CG. It's just so sad that this movie had to fall so deep so fast for a specific amount of time, because you take the first hour of this movie, the last 30 minutes, you make it an hour and a half movie, get rid of the Venom stuff, it would be a little too short of a movie, but like a solid 8 out of 10. But sadly, this movie just includes the symbiote. We have the Bully Maguire stuff, and it's for a good chunk of the movie, and it forces a lot of characters to act out of character, and like a scene, and it causes a lot of lazy writing. I think this whole thing about this movie being being a disaster at moments was just conflicted ideas of what they wanted to be in this movie. Because I know they forced Sam Raimi to put Venom in this movie, and he did not want to do it. And it shows. It really, really shows. Which means I'm really concerned for Doctor Strange 2, because they're making him do reshoots. So, good luck, Doctor Strange 2, because when Sam Raimi doesn't want to film something he doesn't want to film, you can tell. Particularly in this one. Because you can tell that Sam Raimi had no interest in Venom. Because it's just done so wrong. Eddie Brock in this movie is just not good. I don't care for the Venom movies, and I like this movie more than the first Venom movie. So it's like, even Tom Hardy was better in the. Of course, Tom Hardy was the best part of the Venom movies so far, but it's just so sad to see this misfire of a character, and particularly since the movie goes so out of its way to get that. Sandman, I really enjoy his arc. I think it really hit a couple of really good notes, even though I always thought the Sandman storyline felt a little pushed in there and a little unnecessary, because the Uncle Ben storyline with Peter learning his lesson at the end of the first movie, it was so, like, final. And then to have this movie, yeah, he that was the wrong guy, we have someone else now. It just felt like, really? Really? You know, yeah, this face right here represents Spider-Man 3, because, like, the scene where James Franco flies in at the end helps Peter out. They fight together to save MJ, and then James Franco sacrifices himself in the same way his father died. It just hit such perfect notes like that. But then 5 minutes earlier, we had James Franco's butler just saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, your father accidentally killed himself." Yeah. That scene just cracks me up. Like, yeah, by the way, Mr. Osborn, your father killed himself by mistake, and I knew it the whole time when I was cleaning his wounds, and I just didn't tell you, even though I saw you just purposefully planning out all this I hate Spider-Man stuff, and almost literally got yourself killed over it, you know. I'll tell you now, since the movie's almost done. You know, it just felt so shoehorned in, and I could tell that was just another writing problem that they ran into because of the studio demands for Venom in this movie. This movie, if they just dragged it out to have a little bit more relatability, focused in a little bit more on MJ and Peter, and not having some like, they both act really out of character in this movie, and to not really force problems with them, to kind of wrap up them in a good way, and to kind of maybe include Sandman, but not make it as connecting to Uncle Ben. Like, you could still connect it to Uncle Ben, but not as heavily as they did. And the movie would have been fine. And, of course, James Franco's storyline. You know, the whole entire movie was James Franco's storyline. I would have been fine with that. But, you know, since the second one has said such a promising setup for this movie, you know, particularly with the ending, you know, with James Franco in particular, to see it kind of, like, brush it off the first act, kind of come back the second act in some stupid ways, and then the third act, then it's well done. It's just like, really? Really? And I know this movie had behind-the-scenes problems, particularly with this one producer I don't remember his name, but I've read some things about him. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna give this movie a 5.6 out of 10. I think I'm just gonna divide it up into the second act. Like, first act and a half, great. Then the halfway to second act and beginning of the third act, not so great. Last third of the third act, great. So, overall, like, I'm entertained by it. Like, I've never not known the Bully Maguire stuff, because I've watched this movie since I was little. So, I never comprehended, like, Bully Maguire was, like, a bad cinematic choice. And so I always just knew this movie for what it was. So I never had that anticipation of, in 2007, I'm going to go see the new Spider-Man movie, because I was like 3 at the time. So I never had that anticipation of, okay, let's see how it ends. Because if I did, I would probably be giving maybe even a much worse review right now. Because there's a lot of stuff in this movie. If I had the setup that Spider-Man 2 had and then walked into what we saw in this movie, in that middle 30 minutes, I would have been very confused of anything. So yeah. Anyways, that's my thoughts on Spider-Man 3. It's a movie that has fantastic moments, has some great send-offs, and concludes overall pretty well, but with some lazy setups, and script overall is the problem. It just goes down to the script of this movie. And yeah. Anyways, comment down below what you guys thought of Spider-Man 3. Where do you lie on this? I'm just mixed. So yeah. Anyways, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.